Just want to remind you guys, this episode is presented by PrizePicks. Download the app today. Use the code JUICE to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Of course, your guys, Cody and Derek, back with another one, guys. Well, guys, by the time this video drops, we will have been 2 days through legal tampering, the start of actual NFL free agency on that Wednesday. But, Derek, I thought this was a video that we definitely should talk about, and just a topic in general that we should talk about. And it's a topic that I've been thinking about a lot today in regards to Chris Ballard. And Derek, it's crazy to see already through 2 days that the Indianapolis Colts have already signed more outside free agents than they signed all of last offseason. And I guess that kind of leads me into this conversation about the fact that, Derek, you have seen a fundamental shift this offseason from Chris Ballard, from what he did a year ago to where he is now. I'll start with the news that happened on Tuesday. Will Fries, the Indianapolis Colts, let him walk. He went and signed with the Minnesota Vikings. We obviously saw on the first day of legal tampering, Dayo Adangbo signed with the Chicago Bears. So what did the Indianapolis Colts do? They went out and they signed not one, but two impact guys on the defensive side of the ball in the secondary. They signed, obviously, Cameron Bynum first, who is a very good young safety, and then they went and got Charvarius Ward, who was the top dog on the market when it came to free agent corners. And the Colts made a drastic effort right at the start of free agency, Derek, to really seriously improve this group in a huge, huge way. And then the Indianapolis Colts on Tuesday, they went and they signed Daniel Jones to compete with Anthony Richardson. And I know some people have kind of been up in arms about that, but Derek, I tell you all these moves the Colts have made to say this. They wouldn't have done this a year ago. If it's Chris Ballard a year ago, the Colts would have probably re-signed Dayo Adangbo, and they probably would have re-signed Will Fries. But they didn't do that this year, Derek. They used that money that they would have paid those guys potentially, and they went out and they got impact guys at positions of desperate need on their defense. They went out and did that. They got some guys. This is the first time we've seen the Indianapolis Colts do anything like that. And Derek, through the three free agent signings the Indianapolis Colts have made, they're spending, I think, roughly around $50 million. Maybe not quite $50 million, but around there between the two guys they signed on Monday and Daniel Jones on Tuesday.
Yep.
So it's very obvious the Indianapolis Colts have changed their approach. It's actually refreshing to see this and see Chris Ballard kind of change his ways. You know, it just feels like in years past he would have doubled down. Heck, we saw it in 2023. Doubled down on his own guys, right? He went and secured all his guys and didn't do anything in free agency of note. Didn't sign a single guy, a single impact free agent. We saw what happened. It didn't work out. So Chris Ballard, to his credit, he knew his job was on the line. He went out and he actually spent some money this offseason. And again, Derek, we're recording this Tuesday at 5 o'clock. So there could be more moves that happen today. There could not be. But all that to say, it doesn't change the fact that Chris Ballard, Derek, has changed his free agent philosophy this offseason in a very positive way. What are your thoughts on some of the stuff that I just said around Chris Ballard, how he's completely changed how he attacks this offseason, and what he's already done to improve this Colts roster?
Well, I mean, let's talk about the reason why he's doing it, right? I mean, there's no doubt that he's on the hot seat and stuff had to be done. Changes had to be made. If not, he would have been kicked out the door at some point before the season even started. And, you know, he may not ever get another GM gig ever again because, you know, of lack of basic just incompetence. So fans have been saying it from the last few years. Like, you know, Ballard, we've been giving you all these chances. You haven't taken them. And now we're stuck here. And now we're like, there's no interest in this team. All it is bad media attention, bad fan interaction, everything. So Ballard had to step up in a big way, especially after his comments from his end of the year presser saying that there were multiple position groups that he wanted to build continuity in over the span of the last offseason, and it didn't work out. And, that resulted in I need to change how I do some things or how I look at some things, because obviously what I tried to do last year didn't work. And so you told on yourself. You have to, and now you have to change things, because if you don't, then fans will never let you hear the end of it. So on top of that, now he has gone out and actually done exactly what he said he was going to do. He was going to change some things in certain position groups, and one being, Cody, the secondary. The secondary, which never saw any additions. It was all the same guys from the previous year. And he was like, they're going to make a jump. They're going to make a jump. And almost none of them did. Most of them were injured. Jalen Jones, had himself a solid season, not anything crazy, but it was still solid. Kenny Moore was as good as ever. But outside of that, nobody shined. Nick Cross did shine a little bit.
Womack had
in the
a few
safety
moments.
room for sure, and which might have been one of the bigger surprises. But Julian Blackmon, he went down in value. Still not sure whether or not he will resign with the team. I doubt he does, but you never know. So, but the secondary in and of itself, major letdown. Major letdown. Part of it was due to scheme. Part of it was due to the players that were being asked to perform that scheme. Now you get a new defensive coordinator in there. You get a new secondaries coach. And so now you got to go out and get the best players that you can to improve those units. And he did exactly that. You're right. It's something that we have not seen Ballard do from any sort of aspect. And I feel like there's only going to get more done, Cody. And, outside of the 2018 draft, this offseason could go down as the best offseason of a Ballard tenure that we will ever see. And these guys haven't even stepped on the field yet. These guys haven't even signed their contracts yet from the time that we're recording this. But the sure impact in the secondary in which you have taken this unit. And then, he mentioned the QB competition. He went out and got probably the most logical answer for quarterback competition that you could probably get, at least from a veteran, a younger veteran that is not going to be dragging himself, because he's nearing 40 years old, right? And so I do look at the names he did let go. And you're right, Cody, because there's some big names. Ryan Kelly, I know that Ryan Kelly was not a Chris Ballard player that was drafted, but you got to think about it, Cody. Ryan Kelly was the last Colt from the previous regime that was part of the Ballard era. He's the last one. He's gone. Every single player that is now on this team has been brought here by Chris Ballard. So it's the end of an era. Ryan Kelly's been one of the few guys that lasted past that because Ryan Kelly was really good at what he did. But, again, Ballard had to look at the issues at hand, right? Ryan Kelly wanted to get paid again. You didn't really feel like you had the money for that. You felt like it could have been used to advocate assets elsewhere. Ryan Kelly has issues with the durability. Ryan Kelly had issues with saying some things in press conferences about the standard and, things not being met. And that ended up being a major red flag amongst the Colts fan base. So you kind of had to think about, as much as that guy has been around, you wanted to think that that money could have been utilized in a more important aspect. Same thing with Will Fries. Again, I love Will Fries, no doubt. But you're just coming off of a major injury. And regardless if it impacts you or not going forward, you're not healthy 100% yet. And you're getting paid $17.5 million a year over the next 5 years to be a right guard for another team, we're not doing that. We're going to take that money, invest it into somewhere else, especially since Chris Ballard knows Ryman's going to want a new contract here soon. Quentin Nelson is going to get a new contract here soon. So you got some guys that are going to need to get paid on that offensive line. But that was a very smart move. And it's one of the few good moves that Ballard made from the 2023 offseason was drafting guys by the name of Tanner Bortolini and Matt Gonsalves. Those guys are really going to help Chris Ballard along the way with keeping this offensive line mostly intact with all the money that he's going to have to keep dishing out to them over the next few years. We'll see about Braden Smith, but I will disagree with you on the Dio Adangbo number. I think that no matter what happens, that number was way too high to ever give to Dio Adangbo. I get what you're saying in the premise of it, but that number is way too dang high. If Ballard would have done that, I'd have been pissed. Even if we took away everything that he had done prior and he's still bargain bin Ballard or pay your own Ballard, then even if he did that, I'd have been pissed for that kind of money. But nevertheless, to resist the urge to spend the money on the guys that, not only guys that you've had in your unit for a while, but good players, and to not re-sign them and allow them to move on and be able to spend that money in places that drastically needed it more, I think has been very wise and very smart by Chris Ballard so far. As we said, guys, today's episode is sponsored by PrizePicks. Now, what is PrizePicks? PrizePicks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Instead of battling against thousands of other players across platforms, you're basically picking 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you're choosing more or less on those stat projections to be able to watch those winnings roll in. It's very easy. Do you guys want to play along at some of PrizePicks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and UFC fighter Sugar Sean O'Malley? Well, if you guys sign up today, you can find the community plays under the promos tab of the app to view the entries of some of the biggest names on the platform and be a part of that as well. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 just like that with NBA, NHL, and college basketball entries today on PrizePicks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Like a lot of other things, guys, they also offer injury insurance, so your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. So if someone exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player projection won't count against you and the rest of your entry stays live. So it's great bounce back for that one. What I love about the app as well, guys, is it's not just sports like NBA, NHL, football, and tennis, and baseball, and all these other things, but there's also a lot of others that go into it as well. If you like to place entries on video game situations like Call of Duty, CS2, Apex, if that's something that appeals to you, there's a wide variety of sports and video games and everything else that you can place entries on. And I love how expansive it is. Even just looking at the NBA, there's entries you can make with turnovers, with points. You can do combo deals, dunks, field goals attempted, all of these different things. So there's just so many different ways to make money off of these entries. Be sure to download the app today and use the code JUICE to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup.
I look at the 2 positions the Colts let go. Dio Adangbo, obviously, defensive line. That's something Chris Ballard always wants to add. But Derek Dio's never been a full-time starter, first off.
Yep.
And Will Fries, like you said, a great season, but the injury was a concern. And Derek, frankly, right guard, that's not a super impactful position when it's all said and done compared to others. So I'm not about to go pay another guard top money, like that just wouldn't make any sense. As much as we love Will Fries, it doesn't make a lot of sense for the Indianapolis Colts to go do that, right? And look what Chris Ballard did instead. He signed a former All-Pro in 2023 and an ascending safety who just came off a career year. So he didn't pay the players based off a projection this year, like he would have done with those two guys, but he did pay the players who frankly deserved it. He paid those guys that are productive when they're on the field. Not to say those guys weren't, but they were kind of like, it was more of a, if you sign them to those deals, that's based off of what you think they could do, they could become, not what they necessarily are right now, because obviously injuries, and then, with Dio, just a lack of, starting. I know he played a lot of snaps, but there's been some consistency issues as well. As good of a player as he can be, I mean, for that price, I don't know. I just think it's out of the Colts' range. So I like the fact that they paid players who, frankly, Derek, they're paying players based off of how they produced and how they have produced in the past. And I think that is a major step in the right direction for Chris Ballard, to pay players who are productive, not based off of what they could become or could be in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt that some of these players, you're right, some of the players that were getting paid to go to these other teams, which is kind of ironic, 3 of the in-house free agents that have signed with with other teams all have gone to the NFC North, which is pretty funny to think about. 2 Colts offensive linemen have come to the Vikings, and the Colts and the Vikings are just exchanging players at this point, Cody. It's pretty much all it is at this point. The Dio contract especially was a lot more based on projection, not as much about production, more projection. So that definitely was not something that you were wanting to go out there and do. And then, Will Fries, I mean, we know what Will Fries can be, but again, paying $18 million a year to another guard when you're already paying $20 million to your other one, and then you have to pay your left tackle here in a year or so, that's just obviously not something that you're going to do. So, you just need to be smart with how you're going to approach this. And like we said, I mean, Ballard got 2 premier secondary players that are going to drastically improve your defense. He got the quarterback that he wanted to be quarterback competition so far. And so far, this is exactly what you wanted to see if you're a Colts fan right now. Again, none of this, and I think I have to explain this too to round this video up before I rant too much. None of this is to in any way say that we forgive Chris Ballard for putting ourselves in this position in the first place. Ballard put himself here because of past mistakes, running it back in 2023, not getting a lot of premium talent over the last 3 years to improve this team, right? Like nobody's saying that we need to forgive Ballard for that, but we are allowed to say, oh yeah, this is a very wise and very thought out strategy. And this is exactly what the Colts needed to do to improve their odds of winning in 2025.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, they're on the right track here. I definitely like those day one moves. I think those immediately make you a better football team on the defensive side of the ball. And who knows what other moves the Colts are going to be making here, man. But definitely a good start here before officially free agency gets underway on Wednesday. So, guys, let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. What are your thoughts on Chris Ballard's new free agent philosophy here in 2025? Curious your thoughts in the comments down below. But, guys, that'll do it for this one. If you haven't already, be sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell, all that good stuff. But again, guys, that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, guys, go Colts.